nobody saw this coming. Not like this. Because what started as just another quiet night instantly turned into one of the most explosive, career-shaking moments of TY's life. And it was all caught on camera. And when we say caught, we mean every second of it. We're talking flashing lights, shouting voices, tension so thick you could feel it through the screen, and right in the middle of it all, King Harris standing face-to-face with authorities, visibly heated, refusing to back down. But here's where things take a turn no one expected. Because the footage that's going viral right now is not just a simple arrest clip. No. Insiders are saying this video was never supposed to be seen by the public, and yet somehow, someway, it leaked. And once it hit social media, it exploded. Within minutes, timelines were flooded. Within hours, debates turned into full-blown chaos. Fans were confused. Critics were ruthless. And people close to the situation, they started panicking. Because the clip doesn't just show an arrest, it shows something deeper, something personal, something that raises serious questions about what really went down that night. You can literally hear voices yelling in the background. You can see body language shifting. And at one point, what looks like a moment where things almost spiral completely out of control. And that's the moment people can't stop replaying. But here's the part that has everyone talking. Right before things escalate, there's a split-second exchange between T.I. and King Harris that viewers are calling chilling. Some say it reveals tension that's been building for months. Others believe it exposes a hidden conflict behind the scenes, one that fans were never meant to know about. And now the internet is asking one dangerous question. Was this arrest just an accident? Or was this the moment everything finally fell apart? Because sources are now hinting that what we saw in that video might just be the beginning. And if what insiders are whispering is true, then this situation is about to get way worse. Stay locked in, because what we're about to reveal next will completely change how you see this entire situation. Because to really understand why this moment is hitting so hard, you have to go back, way back, before the flashing lights, before the viral footage, before the arrest that now has everyone talking. You have to understand who T.I. really is, not just as a rapper, but as a father, a public figure, and someone who has spent years carefully building an image of control, leadership, and authority. For over 2 decades, T.I. has been seen as more than just an artist. He branded himself as the King of the South, a man who turned struggle into success, chaos into structure. He wasn't just making music, he was crafting a legacy. And part of that legacy? His family. Especially his son, King Harris. Now, if you've been paying attention, you already know. King Harris has never been the quiet, stay-in-the-background type. From the moment he stepped into the spotlight, he made it clear he wasn't trying to live in his father's shadow. No, he wanted his own name, his own identity, his own respect. But here's the problem. That independence? It didn't always align with the image T.I. was trying to protect. Yeah, and that's where the tension started. Because behind the scenes, insiders have been whispering for months that things between T.I. and King weren't as solid as they appeared online. Sure, they smiled for cameras, posted family moments, acted united, but according to people close to them, there were constant disagreements about lifestyle, choices, and especially public behavior. King Harris, known for speaking his mind, started making headlines for controversial statements, heated exchanges, and moments that had fans raising eyebrows. And every time it happened, guess who got pulled into it? T.I. Because whether he liked it or not, every move King made reflected back on him, and sources claim that started to frustrate him. Badly. There were reports of private arguments turning loud, of family discussions turning into confrontations, and of T.I. trying, sometimes unsuccessfully, to rein things in. But King, he wasn't backing down. In fact, people say he leaned into the chaos, posting more, talking more, pushing boundaries even further, almost like he was daring people. daring his father Hannity to challenge him. And then came the social media moments, the ones fans couldn't ignore. Clips of King speaking aggressively, comments that hinted at deeper frustrations, even subtle jabs that some viewers believe were directed straight at T.I. At first, people thought it was just typical father-son tension. Normal, nothing too serious. But then, it escalated. Because not long before this now viral arrest footage surfaced, there were already rumors circulating that something big had happened behind closed doors. Something that caused a serious rift. And while no one could confirm exactly what it was, the energy between them? It changed. Fans noticed it. The chemistry felt off. The unity felt forced. And then came that one live stream. The one that people still bring up, where King Harris appeared visibly irritated, dropping comments that many interpreted as disrespectful, not just toward others, but toward his own family dynamic. And even though T.I. didn't respond publicly at the time, sources claim he was not happy at all. In fact, insiders say that moment triggered a series of conversations that got more intense with each passing day. Arguments about respect, about image, about boundaries, and about who was really in control. Because at the end of the day, this wasn't just about family. This was about power, about legacy, about who gets to define the narrative. And according to people close to the situation, neither side was willing to back down. So when that night happened, the night of the arrest, it wasn't coming out of nowhere. No, it was the boiling point. The moment where all that built-up tension, all those unresolved issues, all those quiet frustrations, finally exploded. And here's what makes it even more intense. Because witnesses are now claiming that just hours before the incident, there was already an argument, a heated one. Voices raised, emotions high. And if that's true, then what we saw in that viral footage wasn't just a random situation. It was the aftermath of something much bigger, something personal, something that had been building for a long time. And now, the world is watching it unfold in real time. But what actually happened that night? What pushed things from tension to total chaos? And what exactly does that leaked footage reveal that has everyone so shaken? Because once you see what went down next, you'll understand why people are saying this could be the moment that changes everything. That night didn't just go wrong, it spiraled. According to multiple insider accounts that started surfacing right after the footage leaked, everything kicked off in what was supposed to be a low-key situation. Nothing major, nothing dramatic. At least at first, but that calm, it didn't last. Because witnesses claim that King Harris was already in an agitated mood before authorities even showed up. And people nearby described his energy as tense, on edge, like something had already set him off long before the camera started rolling. And then something happened. No one can agree on the exact trigger, but everyone agrees on what came next. Voices got louder, movements got sharper, and suddenly what should have been a normal interaction turned into a full-blown confrontation. That's when authorities stepped in. At first it looked like they were just trying to calm things down. Standard procedure, nothing too serious. But the second King Harris started pushing back, everything changed. You can hear it in the footage. That shift, that moment where the tone flips from calm to controlled chaos. And then, right in the middle of it all, T.I. steps in. Now this is where it gets intense. Because instead of immediately de-escalating the situation like people expected, insiders claim T.I. came in frustrated, not calm, not collected. Frustrated. Almost like this wasn't the first time he had to step into a situation like this. Almost like he was already fed up. And that energy? It clashed instantly with King's. Witnesses say the two locked eyes, and for a split second, everything around them faded. No officers, no crowd, just father and son. Standing there with tension that had clearly been building for way longer than anyone realized. And then came the exchange. The one people keep replaying. The one social media can't stop dissecting. King says something, low but sharp. Ti responds, quicker, louder, and just like that, the situation escalates. Because now it's not just about the authorities, it's personal. Yeah, you can literally feel the shift through the screen. The body language changes, the tone hardens, and suddenly, what should have been a controlled situation turns into something that feels completely unpredictable. At one point in the footage, it looks like Ti reaches toward King, not aggressively but firmly, like he's trying to pull him back, regain control, end it before it gets worse. But King, he resists. And that resistance? That's the moment everything breaks. Because now authorities step in harder, commands get louder, hands move faster, and within seconds both Ti and King Harris are being restrained. And this is where the footage takes a turn that no one expected. Because as everything is happening, amid the shouting, the confusion, the chaos, there's a moment where Ti looks directly at King. And instead of anger, and people are saying they saw something else. Disappointment. Real, visible disappointment. And that hit fans hard, because up until that moment, this looked like just another heated situation. But that one look, it made it feel deeper, more personal. Like this wasn't just about that night. This was about everything that had been building for months. And then, just when you think it couldn't get more intense, the first twist drops. Because shortly after the footage goes viral, a so-called leaked audio clip starts circulating online. And this clip, it changes everything. Allegedly recorded earlier that same day, the audio is said to capture a conversation between Ti and King Harris. And if it's real, it reveals that the tension we saw in that video was already at a breaking point. In the clip, voices are raised, words are exchanged. And at one point, a voice believed to be T. I says something that has completely divided the internet. You keep pushing this, it's not going to end how you think. Now people are asking, was that a warning? A threat? Or a desperate attempt to stop something from spiraling? Because if that audio is real, then what happened that night wasn't random at all. It was inevitable. And suddenly the narrative shift. This isn't just a viral arrest anymore. This is a story about a father and son on a collision course. And a moment that may have been building long before anyone hit record. But just when the internet thought it had the full picture, another piece of information starts to surface. A detail buried in the footage that most people missed. A detail that suggests there might have been someone else involved. And if that part is true, then this situation is about to get even more complicated. And a whole lot more dangerous. Just when people thought they had already seen the worst of it, that's when the situation blew wide open. Because while everyone was busy replaying the arrest footage of Ti and King Harris, zooming in on their expressions, debating who was right and who was wrong, a second clip surfaced, and this one, it changed everything. Unlike the first video, which showed the confrontation in the middle of the chaos, this new footage appears to capture what happened just moments before authorities stepped in. And the energy in this clip? Completely different. No sirens, no shouting. Just tension. Thick, uncomfortable tension. You can see King Harris pacing back and forth. Back and forth. Hands moving, jaw tight, clearly in the middle of something serious. And then, off to the side, there's another figure, partially visible. Face not fully clear, but enough for people online to start asking questions. Because whoever this person is, they weren't just a bystander, they were involved. In fact, some viewers claim that in the footage, this unidentified person can be heard saying something that sounds like, "You already know what this is about. Don't act like you don't." And that line? That one line sent the internet into absolute meltdown. Because now the story isn't just about father and son anymore. Now, there's a third element, a missing piece. And people want answers. Who is this person? What role did they play? And most importantly, what were they talking about? Because here's where it gets even crazier. Within hours of this second clip going viral, a series of anonymous posts started appearing on forums and social media, accounts claiming to have inside knowledge of the situation. Now, normally people would ignore that, but this time, the details were specific. Too specific. One post in particular started gaining traction. It claimed that the confrontation that night wasn't just about behavior, attitude, or public image. It was about money. According to this so-called insider, there had been a disagreement earlier that day involving a deal. Something tied to King Harris's growing presence, his connections, and decisions he was making independently. Decisions that T.I. allegedly didn't approve of. And if that's true, then this wasn't just a personal clash, this was business. And business disagreements, they hit differently, especially when family is involved. Yeah, because now you're not just arguing as a father and son. You're clashing as two individuals with competing visions. And according to these rumors, that disagreement escalated fast. Voices raised, accusations thrown. And at some point, things got so heated that people around them had to step in to try and separate the situation. Which would explain something else people noticed in the footage. Because if you watch closely right before authorities intervene, you can see multiple individuals in the background. Some trying to calm King down, others looking toward T.I., like they're waiting for him to take control. But control was already slipping. And then came the moment that turned this from drama into a full-blown internet storm. Because a verified account, someone known in the industry, posted a cryptic message just hours after the footage leaked. The post read, "Y'all really think this started tonight? This been brewing, and it ain't even about what you think." No names, no context. But the timing? Suspicious. And the internet did what it always does. They connected the dots, they dug deeper. They started pulling up old clips, past interviews, previous arguments, anything that could explain what was really going on behind the scenes. And suddenly, a pattern started to form. Moments where King Harris talked about wanting independence. Moments where T.I. emphasized discipline, structure, and control. Moments where their views didn't just differ, they clashed hard. And now, with this new footage, these alleged leaks, and these cryptic messages, people are starting to believe that what we saw wasn't just an isolated incident. It was a breaking point. The moment where two paths finally collided in the worst way possible. But just when you think the situation couldn't get more intense. The shocking reveal drops. Because late that same night, reports began circulating that after the arrest one night, there was a conversation, a private one, between T.I. and King Harris, and according to someone claiming to be close to the situation, it didn't go well. In fact, they described it as the worst it's ever been. No cameras, no audience. Just raw, unfiltered emotion. And allegedly, words were said in that conversation that can't be taken back. Words that may have pushed this relationship past the point of no return. Now, no one has confirmed exactly what was said. But the mere existence of that conversation, it has fans worried. Because if things were already this bad in public, what does it look like behind closed doors? And more importantly, can this even be fixed? Or has something been broken that can't be repaired? Because right now, the internet isn't just watching a viral moment anymore. They're watching a relationship unravel in real time. And as more people weigh in, as more opinions flood in, as more voices take sides, this situation is only getting bigger, messier, and a whole lot more unpredictable. And trust me, what people are saying next, it's taking this entire story to a level no one was ready for. The moment that second clip hit the internet, everything changed. Because this wasn't just a viral video anymore, this became a full-blown cultural moment. And within hours, like social media didn't just react, it erupted. Timelines were flooded. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. And suddenly, everybody had an opinion about T.I. and King Harris. But what made this situation even more intense? The divide. Because people weren't just reacting, they were choosing sides. On one side, you had fans defending T.I. hard. Posts started trending saying things like, "Y'all blaming him, but he's been trying to guide his son for years." People don't understand what it's like raising a kid in the spotlight. He stepped in like a father should, These supporters painted TIY as someone who had been pushed to his limit, someone who was trying to maintain order in a situation spiraling out of control. But on the other side, it got brutal because critics came out swinging, like control isn't guidance, it's pressure. Maybe this is why King acts the way he does. Y'all keep defending him, but look at the result. And just like that, the narrative split in two. Father trying to discipline, or father losing control, and right in the middle of it all, King Harris. Because while people debated TE's role, a whole different conversation started forming around King himself. Some saw him as rebellious, reckless, someone pushing boundaries too far. But others, they saw something else. Frustration, pressure. A young man trying to define himself under the weight of a massive legacy. And suddenly old clips started resurfacing. Interviews, live stream moments, even past arguments. Every little thing people could find that might explain his behavior. And once those clips started circulating, the conversation got even deeper. Because now it wasn't just about one night. It was about years of tension, years of expectations, years of a dynamic that might not have been as stable as it looked. But then, the industry stepped in. And that's when things really escalated. Because once celebrities and insiders started reacting, the tone shifted. One anonymous producer posted, "I've seen this before. Fame plus family equals disaster if boundaries aren't clear." A well-known radio personality hinted, "This situation bigger than what y'all seeing? Trust me." And then came the post that really shook people. A verified artist, someone who has worked closely around the same circles, tweeted, "Y'all laughing, but this ain't funny. This what happens when private issues get dragged into public spaces." No names, no direct references, but the timing? Yeah, too perfect. And just like that, speculation went through the roof, because now people weren't just analyzing the footage. They were trying to decode hidden meanings. Who's siding with who? Who knows more than they're saying? What's being kept quiet? And then came the media coverage. Blogs picked it up first. Headlines started popping up. Viral arrest footage raises questions about family dynamics. Fans divided after T.I. and Son's heated confrontation. Leaked clips suggest deeper issues behind public incident. And once mainstream outlets got involved, it was over. This wasn't just trending anymore, this was everywhere. And the pressure? It started building fast, because now silence wasn't an option. People were waiting, watching, refreshing timelines, expecting statements, apologies, explanations, something, anything, but nothing came. Mama, no official response, no clear statement. Just silence. And that silence, it made everything worse. Because when people don't have answers, they create their own. Theories started forming, some believable, some completely wild, but all feeding into the same thing, uncertainty. And that uncertainty, it kept the story alive, growing, spreading, turning into something bigger than just one incident. Because now this isn't just about what happened. It's about what it means for the family, for their image, for everything they've built. And as the debate continues to rage, as more voices join in, as the story refuses to slow down, one thing becomes very clear. This situation isn't going away anytime soon. In fact, it might just be getting started. Because what just surfaced next? It's not just another twist. It's the kind of revelation that can flip everything upside down. Just when it felt like the story had reached its peak, just when people thought they had seen every angle, heard every theory, and uncovered every hidden detail, that's when the final twist dropped. And this one, it didn't just shake the internet, it changed the entire narrative. Because late the next morning, when the chaos was still trending, when debates were still raging, when everyone was waiting for some kind of response, a new clip surfaced. But this wasn't like the others. This one was different, short, grainy, almost like it wasn't meant to be recorded at all. And according to the account that posted it, This footage was taken after the arrest, not before, which immediately raised questions because how did someone even get this? And more importantly, why release it now? In the clip, you can see what appears to be a holding area. Quiet, controlled, nothing like the chaos from earlier. And sitting there, King Harris, alone. Head slightly down, hands clasped. Not the same energy people saw in the first videos. No aggression, no defiance, just stillness. And for a few seconds, nothing happens. Until someone off camera says something. You can't hear it clearly, but whatever is said, it triggers a reaction. Because King slowly looks up. And what people notice next, it gave them chills. Because instead of anger, instead of frustration, people are saying they saw something else. Something they didn't expect at all. Regret. Real, visible regret. And right as the clip is about to end, he says something, quiet, almost under his breath, but loud enough for viewers to catch a piece of it. This wasn't supposed to happen. That line, it hit hard. Because now the narrative shifts again. Because if this wasn't supposed to happen, then what was supposed to happen? What was the plan? What went wrong? And suddenly, all those earlier theories, the deal, the argument, the mysterious third person, start coming back into focus. Because now it feels like this situation wasn't just a spontaneous explosion. It might have been a part of something that got completely out of control. And then, the biggest twist of all, because just minutes after that clip started spreading, another post appeared. This one from an account claiming to have direct knowledge of the aftermath. And what they said? It left people stunned. According to this post, after everything that happened, after the arrest, after the confrontation, after the alleged private conversation, there was a decision being discussed, a serious one that could change everything moving forward. The post claimed that people close to T.I. were considering distancing moves, not temporary, not symbolic, real, long-term. And whether that means stepping back publicly, limiting appearances together, or something even more serious. No one knows yet. But the idea alone, it shook fans. Because up until now, no matter what happened, family was always presented as solid, untouchable, unbreakable. But this suggests something different, something fragile, something on the edge. And if that's true, then this isn't just a viral moment anymore. This could be the beginning of a complete shift in how everything operates moving forward. And here's the part that makes it even more unsettling. Because neither T.I. nor King Harris has come out to deny any of this. No statements, no clarifications, no attempt to shut down the rumors, just silence. And at this point, that silence is louder than anything they could say. Because it leaves room. Room for speculation. Room for doubt. Room for one terrifying question that's now spreading across the internet. Is this the moment their relationship actually breaks? Or is this just the calm before something even bigger? Because if there's one thing this situation has proven, it's that every time we think we've seen the full story, another layer gets revealed, another twist appears, another question gets raised, and right now, there are more questions than answers, more tension than resolution, more uncertainty than clarity. And something tells me we're not even close to the end of this, because if what insiders are hinting at is true, then what's coming next? It won't just shock you, it might completely change how you see everything that's happened so far. Now I need you to tell me what you think. Because this situation has split the internet in half, and people are not holding back. Do you believe this was just a moment that got out of control? Or do you think there's something much bigger happening behind the scenes that we're only just starting to see? Was T.I. trying to step in as a father? Or was this a situation that had already gone too far for anyone to fix? And what about King Harris? Do you think that final clip shows regret? Or is it just another piece of a story we don't fully understand yet? I want to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments right now, because this conversation is only getting bigger. And if you've made it this far, you already know this isn't just another viral moment. This is something that's still unfolding in real time. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because if another clip drops, if another leak surfaces, if anything new comes out about this situation, you already know we're going to break it down first. And trust me, based on everything we've seen so far, this story, it's far from over.